Blockchain, proof of work, mining, private keys, Bitcoin. What does it mean? My name's Mitch, this is Pablo, welcome to Mitch Tape. If you haven't already watched my video on money, I recommend you start there because I'll be drawing on a lot of those concepts that we discussed. So make sure you go and check that out. On the 31st of October 2008, the Bitcoin White Paper, which is a 9-page document explaining what Bitcoin is and how it works, was published by Satoshi Nakamoto. To this day, nobody knows who he, she, they are. The last sign of any activity was in 2014. Satoshi described Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer version of electronic cash, without going through a financial institution. And this reference to financial institutions is very revealing. It tells us that one of Satoshi's main aims was a future where people had the freedom to opt out of the central bank system. In fact, this was so important to Satoshi that they included the Times newspaper headline, "Chancellor on the brink of a second bailout for banks," a clear dig at the current system, in the first block of the Bitcoin blockchain. But what is a blockchain? A blockchain is just a type of database where entries are stored in blocks and kept in chronological order. So for Bitcoin, each block records any recent transactions, so the whole blockchain itself contains every transaction ever made. A copy of this is stored on tens of thousands of computers, called nodes, all around the world. When someone wants to send some Bitcoin, they broadcast the transaction to the nodes, who confirm it's legit and can be recorded in the next block in the blockchain. Nodes remove the need for a middleman financial institution like a bank, making the network highly decentralized and secure. Using the blockchain, you can literally trace every Bitcoin back to when it was made. But how are Bitcoins made? This is where mining comes in. Miners are computers which receive verified transactions from nodes, group them into a block, and add it to the end of the blockchain. In return for this service, they're paid the fees from every transaction that's included in the block, as well as a block reward of freshly minted Bitcoin. This is how new Bitcoins are made. However, only one miner can be the one who adds a block, and so the computers race against each other for this prize by spending vast amounts of computational energy to solve a complex puzzle. Like a lottery, the winner will be random, but you have more chance of winning if you buy more tickets, which in this case means spending more power. The puzzle is very difficult to solve, but very easy to verify if it's correct, which brings us to the concept of proof of work. Proof of work was initially designed as a way to stop email spam. Requiring the sender to spend computational power in order to send an email made it too expensive to send mass emails of spam. Similarly, by making miners spend energy with only the possibility of mining the next block, it's expensive to even attempt to cheat. Any block that includes an invalid transaction will be automatically rejected by the network, leaving the miner with no Bitcoin and a massive energy bill. This humongous amount of energy spent on new blocks is what makes the network so secure. It's expensive to cheat, but profitable to act honestly and cooperate. The more energy spent by honest miners, the more energy is required to attack the network. So that's how Bitcoin works, but to actually own and use Bitcoin, you'll need a wallet, which is software you normally store on some sort of electronic device. The name wallet can be a bit misleading because unlike real world wallets, Bitcoin wallets don't actually store your Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin isn't stored anywhere. A Bitcoin's history is recorded on the blockchain. A wallet just helps you prove you are the owner. It does this by storing your private key, which is a long string of numbers and letters which can be used to cryptographically sign any transactions you make, proving to nodes that you own the Bitcoin that you're trying to spend. It's also used to mathematically derive your public key, which in turn can generate multiple Bitcoin addresses. These addresses are the ones that you need to give to people if they want to send you Bitcoin. Really, wallets should be called keychains. Typically, when you set up a wallet, it will randomly generate and store your private key for you and ask you to set a password to protect that private key. From then on, you prove to the wallet you're its owner using a password, and it proves to the network you own your Bitcoin by using your private key. Think of your private key as the ultimate master password to your Bitcoin. If anyone finds out what it is, the wallet software you're using becomes irrelevant and they can steal your Bitcoin. However, outside of human error, that private key system is extremely safe. There's more chance of you and me randomly selecting the same atom in the universe than someone randomly generating the same private key. Let's very quickly describe a Bitcoin transaction from you to me using all of those classic buzzwords which I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Hopefully now you know enough to follow along. You log into your wallet with your password. You input my Bitcoin address and the amount of Bitcoin that you want to send me, and you click send. The wallet signs the transaction using your private key, then broadcasts it to the network of nodes who verify it. Miners include the transaction in the next block, racing via that proof of work mechanism for the privilege of adding the block to the end of the blockchain. The winner earns a block reward of new Bitcoin, and the transaction fees paid by you and everyone else included in that block. Now we have a very rough idea of what Bitcoin is and how it works. Let's tie it back into my video on money by comparing it to the best money we've had up until now, gold, and also against the current fiat system. Gold's major advantage over other monies was its relative scarcity and costliness to mine. We know roughly how much has been mined, and that roughly 2% of new supply will be mined every year. This added 2% still acts as a drag on price, as it constantly dilutes your share of the gold market. On top of this, if the gold price goes up, it means miners can afford to mine in more costly places, increasing supply even more and putting further downwards pressure on price. On this supply front, Bitcoin differs in two very important ways. Firstly, the network is coded to mint a total supply of 21 million Bitcoin. Your share of Bitcoin can never be diluted and devalued. Secondly, the supply of freshly minted Bitcoins is coded to be extremely consistent and predictable. Miners can't mint more even if the price was $10 million a Bitcoin. This schedule is in fact so predictable that we know that the last Bitcoin will be mined in May 2140. A nice way of putting this is that Bitcoin is portable through time. If you bought one of the 21 million Bitcoin today and locked it away for your great grandkids, they'd own one of 21 million Bitcoin too. You can't say the same for any other asset, particularly pounds or dollars or any fiat currency. In fact, you can't say the same thing for any other thing in the universe. Following on from time, Bitcoin is also highly portable through space. I don't mean Star Trek space, I mean from any location on Earth to any location on Earth, in any amount, for almost no cost, taking seconds and requiring only an internet connection. Gold and fiat just don't compare on this front. One of the other advantages of gold was that it doesn't derive its value from an authority like a government. However, we saw that there have been instances where even the US has effectively confiscated gold off its citizens, making it not a truly sovereign currency. Bitcoin is much more resistant to censorship or seizure because you can store it in countless imaginative ways, even just in your head. Bitcoin is also highly divisible. The smallest amount of a Bitcoin is called a Satoshi, and it's 100 millionth of a whole Bitcoin, currently worth around a 30th of a cent. This means that unlike gold and even dollars, it can be used for the smallest of transactions. Removing the lower limit of 1 cent on transactions might not seem important, but it has the potential to disrupt massive industries like music and film. Think streaming per second. Bitcoin is highly secure in that it's extremely cheap and easy to verify. Even gold is susceptible to forgery. On top of this, it doesn't physically exist, which eliminates a lot of the ways in which it can be stolen. It's extremely durable. There's no way to destroy it. You can only lose it by losing your private key, and even then your Bitcoin still actually exists on the blockchain. This actually reduces supply and increases the value of everyone else's. Finally, a huge advantage of Bitcoin is that it can evolve, something that gold can never do. The code is open source and open for modification if a change is backed by an economic majority of the community. This means attacks can be defended and improvements can be made. So hopefully you now have a very rough idea of what Bitcoin is, how it works, and why it could prove to be more sound money than gold. My main goal with this channel is to lead as many people to the Bitcoin rabbit hole as I can. I can't make you jump in, and I wouldn't want to if I could, but I'm going to do my best to make it as easy as possible for you. So hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and let's get going.